The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
Sheriff Mickey Stines shot and killed Judge Kevin Mullins in his chambers in Kentucky. It was all caught on video. Stines is being sued civilly and is facing murder charges. So what's his defense and why did he do it? Both those questions may have the same answer. Mickey was mentally ill. Tonight, we're hearing more from Stines' defense. Does it make sense? We'll take a look. Meanwhile, Brian Walsh and his wife Anna were having issues. Brian was being prosecuted by the feds for selling fake Andy Warhol paintings and was on house arrest. Anna landed a great new job and was commuting from Massachusetts to Washington, D.C. to work. Anna also was seeing another man down in D.C. Then Anna disappeared on New Year's. She's never been found, but Brian Walsh says she just died. And he disposed of her remains in a panic, although he did not kill her. Brian is charged with Anna's murder and is on trial in Dedham, and all the evidence is in and the arguments have been made, and it's time to hear from the jury. But first, absolute shock in Michigan as the $6 million a year coach of the Wolverine football team is in the middle of a salacious scandal that has cost him his job and now has him locked up in jail. Coach Sherrone Moore in court today will show you what happened. You'll hear the explosive allegations as we break it all down. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. And we've got a packed hour for you. So get ready, get set, let's go. Let's start with Michigan. Big-time football program. Now, for those of you not familiar, you don't follow college football, there's a handful of programs around the country that is just huge. And I mean like big business, big money, and a big deal. And we're talking about a big deal, not just to the school, because these programs fund programs for the entire school. It's big TV money. It's big for the alum. It's just a huge, huge deal. And Michigan is one of those programs. Always in the mix, talking about will they or won't they win a national championship this year? Will they or won't they be number one? How many hundreds of thousands of people are going to show up for their games at the stadium, right? It's big time. Okay. So their coach was a big-time coach. Makes $6 million a year coaching the team. That's a lot. It's a lot of money for the coach, right? His name is Sherrone Moore. So this is an unbelievable position to be the coach of Michigan. It's reaching the top of your profession if you're in college football. Like I said, a handful of programs, a handful of schools are in the upper echelon of college football. Michigan is one of them. This is the job. You get it. You never want to leave. You're not going to like, oh, I quit this because I'm going to get a job over there. No, you stay as long as you can. You've reached the top of your profession, and that's where this man was. But this year, they lost the big game, which is their big rivalry to Ohio State. Ohio State has another good team this year, but Michigan, Ohio State, for both teams, is always such a huge game. It usually has big implications, but it's the rivalry game, and it's the one that year in and year out everyone's going to remember. Who won this year? Well, he lost the big game. And sometimes when the coach loses the big game, you lose your job. Well, this coach did lose his job, but it wasn't because he lost the big game. He's got much bigger problems now. Problems that are so big that he's now a criminal defendant. Is in court, his first appearance. He's not dressed up in his Wolverine outfit, no. He's got his jail uniform on. Unbelievable. What a fall from grace when you talk about the contrast between where he was and where he is now. Worlds apart. On the right-hand side of the screen, you're at the top of your profession. On the left-hand side of the screen, you are obviously at the lowest point of your life. And that's the reality for coach or former coach Sherrone Moore. Well, he was in court today being arraigned. I'm going to show you what happened so you can hear some of these shocking allegations and the things that led up to this moment. Take a look, take a listen.
I understand that our victim broke up. They had an intimate relationship for a number of years, defendant and victim. That our victim broke up with this defendant on Monday morning early. That there continued to be defendant making numerous phone calls and sending numerous texts from that time moving forward that she did not answer, did not respond to, and did not want. That eventually she presented herself to the University of Michigan, cooperated in some form of investigation there. As we all now know, defendant was at some point on Wednesday afternoon fired from his employment. He then, at some point soon thereafter, came to her apartment in the address that is alleged in the complaint, barged his way into that apartment, immediately then proceeded to a kitchen drawer, grabbed several butter knives and a pair of kitchen scissors, and began to threaten his own life. I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to make you watch. My blood is on your hands. You ruined my life. And a series of very, very threatening, intimidating, terrifying, quite frankly, statements and behaviors there in that apartment. It was only then, Your Honor, when the victim, she called her attorney and then at some point indicated she was going to call the police, and then he left. And so, Your Honor, while I understand that there isn't evidence to suggest that he directly threatened the victim with any of those implements that I've indicated, the totality of the behavior is highly threatening and highly intimidating. She was terrorized, Your Honor.
Mr. Moore, could you state your name, please?
Robynn Moore.
Sir, you are not to use alcohol, marijuana, or any other controlled substance that is not prescribed to you. You are not to possess or purchase a firearm or any other dangerous weapon. You are not to engage in criminal conduct of any kind whatsoever. You may not leave the state of Michigan without permission of the court. Prior to your release, you will be placed on a GPS tether. You will not be released before that GPS tether is placed upon you. You must continue all mental health treatment as a condition of your bond. The named victim in this case will not be placed on the record. You may not have contact with that individual. That means no calling, no writing, no video chatting, no texting, no emailing, or any other form of contact the human mind can possibly fathom. No one in the world thinks that this person is going to reach out to you. Should they do so, and again, no one thinks that they're going to, you may not reply in any form or fashion. The named victim's address will not be placed on the record, but you may not go to that location for any reason whatsoever. Are we understood on the no contact and no go-to, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Bond will be set in the amount of $25,000 cash surety, as requested by the prosecution's office. This court does not determine innocence or guilt. This court determines flight risk and community safety. The court finds with these conditions in place, it has been met. Sir, do not violate these bond conditions. Follow all orders of the court. Stay in contact with your lawyer. That concludes this hearing.
Again, you have to remember where he once was. Now, in that description of what happened to the coach and why he ended up getting locked up, there were a couple of things that were thrown out there about this breakup and losing his job and then threatening his own life at the home of the woman who broke up with him. One thing you have to understand, the woman we're talking about that's breaking up with him is not his wife. He has a wife and children. That woman's not his wife. So I want to read for you a statement from the University of Michigan, from the president there, because it gives you a little more insight into the backstory on how the coach goes from here and ends up all the way down here. Dear colleagues and students, earlier this week, the Department of Intercollegiate Athletics dismissed head football coach Sherrone Moore with cause for violating university policy by engaging in an inappropriate relationship with a staff member. Okay, that's the victim in the criminal case, is this staff member. When the findings of a university investigation into Coach Moore's behavior were presented on Wednesday, we immediately terminated his employment. There's absolutely no tolerance for this conduct at the University of Michigan, none. The breach of trust by Coach Moore is painful for many in our community, first and foremost, the individuals directly involved in this situation. Okay, so that's the beginning of this, right? There's a breakup, and then the university finds out about the relationship, okay? All of this stuff is bad, but none of it is criminal. It's not criminal until he then goes to her house. That's what the allegations are. That's really when the crime begins. But this is sort of the foundation or the reason behind that visit to the house. Everything is crumbling around him. And it was a scary situation. Take a listen to the dispatch audio from Washtenaw County from dispatch.
Subject just called the caller, told her there's a male at the location and the house attacking her. The state's been stalking her for months. Reference to domestic, they call from S1's wife in Ann Arbor saying that the subject is suicidal. Reference quitting his job today.
They're also advising when he left the location on their call, he walked out with several knives.
Okay. So now the question is, what are we talking about here? There's a lot of different ways to look at this entire situation and scenario, from what happened at work with this inappropriate relationship with a staff member, ends up with him losing his $6 million a year job, and then what he did afterwards. A lot of fallout from this. Let's bring in our think tank. Joining us tonight, criminal defense attorney Josh Colesrud, along with former law enforcement officer and host of the Strong Enough podcast, Claudia King, and entertainment host Holland Reed. So there's a lot going on here, a lot of moving parts. I don't even know, I don't want to steer you anywhere. I want you to look at this situation and tell me what strikes you about it, what's going on here, what went wrong. Josh, start us off.
You know, when we hear home invasion and stalking, we often think of somebody in the night breaking into someone's home. But what we don't think about really is what happened in this case. And, you know, what we're doing is we're evaluating and dissecting a man's worst day in his life. And during that time, he may or may not have committed a crime. Now, let me get into it. So he's charged with one felony, which is home invasion. And in Michigan, it requires that he not be invited or not have permission. But remember, this is somebody who he was professedly in love with and had some type of relationship for at least 2 years. So it's going to be interesting to see whether or not he had a key and how frequent he was allowed in that home. And did you catch something that the prosecutor said? What I heard was that the alleged victim called her attorney first. She didn't call 911. She didn't call security. She didn't call the police. She called her lawyer. So that tells me that it wasn't an emergency in her mind. Either that or she was thinking dollar signs. So I think that there's a lot to uncover here that may not be criminal. And stalking, remember, it requires a pattern. And right now, there's no indication that this is anything except for an explosive single incident.
Claudia, jump in.
So I agree with some of what Josh said, and I respectfully disagree with a few things. I want to start by saying I'm really impressed with the University of Michigan that they acted swiftly, because we've seen other universities like Penn State not do that and push things under the rug. So I'm glad that they did that. I think, yes, we are watching this man in one of his worst moments. However, he caused this worst moment by an alleged years-long affair with this woman. And I also want to note that he is showing us abuser behavior with the harassing phone calls and text messages after she broke up with him, and with this threat to kill himself with a butter knife, which is really odd, but that is abusive and manipulation tactics that I think he's using there to try to affect his victim.
Vinnie, I'm going to follow up with both Josh and Claudia in two different opinions. I've had this happen to me almost to the T. So this is absolutely the beginning of abuse. This is the beginning of the pattern of abuse. It is power. It is entitlement. It is someone that thought he could get away with whatever he wanted to, whether it was an affair or whether it was behavior. I had someone that broke into my house, that stole money out of my son's computer and stalked me as well. And that person is a person in perceived power. And it trickled and slowly led to abuse. So I'm happy for this person, the victim, that got out in time. And yes, Josh, she did call her lawyer first. I did the same thing because this person that was abusing and stalking and manipulating me was a lawyer. I was not an imminent threat. So at the time, it hadn't gotten to that point. So I can completely understand what Josh is saying, and I can completely understand what Claudia is saying, is that you have to protect yourself first. But this is such a pattern of behavior. When you think you're in power, you think you can get away with anything, and you do all these things because you just didn't get your way. And that is a common thing in relationships. I dealt with this personally, so I'm so happy that this victim got out in time.
What happens next here?
Well, let me tell you. So the prosecution is definitely, and first of all, Holland, I'm really sorry that that happened to you. And you make a great point that there's a domestic violence component here. And one of the things that the prosecution is going to have to look into, as well as the defense, it was his mental state. Mental health here is going to be a huge issue, and it may affect, an affirmative defense. Really, maybe he was insane at the time that he did this because his behavior seemed so bizarre.
Let me take this in another direction. What happens to the rest of his life here, Claudia? Like, how do you recover from this? I mean, he's a young guy. He's not an old guy. He's not going to prison. If he even goes, he's not going for a long time. I don't think he'll go at all. So what happens here? How does he live the rest of his life? How does he recover from this?
He can definitely redeem himself and recover from this because, like you said, Vinnie, he likely won't serve any jail time other than, the couple days he served leading up to today's hearing. He definitely needs some therapy. He needs to address whatever mental health issues exist. I don't necessarily think he's insane. I think he was very upset that he got fired and very upset that his whole world was crumbling down. Is he going to be the coach of Michigan again? I doubt it, but I don't think his life is over. He can redeem himself. He can come back from this. He can be a coach again. And I think he has the opportunity to show us an amazing redemption story.
Holland, how about the victim? For her, she worked at the University of Michigan, still works there. Obviously, she's not being named on Court TV and other places, but go on the World Wide Web. Everyone knows who she is. So what's life going to be like for her?
I think it could be, it could go both ways. I mean, this is extremely embarrassing because she was involved with a married man. I think that's first and foremost, it's about a morality issue. On the flip side of it, she's also still a victim of someone that went out of their way to cause her, emotional harm. So if she can just plow through, we all have our stuff, right? We all make the mistakes. But at the end of the day, if she remains, I think, as a professional and in the environment that is loving and caring, she will be just fine. But I do believe that this was his worst day. And unfortunately, it's televised, and that's the state of where we are. And this happens all the time. Not on the Jumbotron, like at the concert that we saw with the band back then, but it's still a big deal. And I hate it for everyone involved, because these are personal matters that sometimes you wish would just stay in the bedroom.
Yeah, you know, when the story was about, you know, the firing, I was like, okay, that's interesting, but that's not anything we're going to talk about on our show. Then when the arrest happened, next level, okay, what's really going on here? All right, good news, our think tank staying with us. When we come back, the Brian Walsh jury got the case today, but they didn't deliver one of those Friday verdicts. What's going on there? Plus, coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan investigates a young pregnant woman, a woods far from home, and shocking accusations involving those she trusted the most. As police build a case against Rebecca Park's mother and stepfather, with her sister and fiancé also facing charges, one question haunts the investigation. How could this have happened right under everyone's nose? Tonight, we investigate.
The Court TV podcast will return.
That feeling of guilt had nothing to do with the killing, because he never killed Anna Walsh.
Anna Walsh is dead because he murdered her, and he intended her death.
So here we are on a Friday night, and I'm wearing a black tie. Why am I wearing a black tie on a Friday night? It should be red. It should be red. So many of our verdicts come in on a Friday night, but the Brian Walsh jury didn't get the case until the afternoon, so they only had about 3 hours to deliberate a case that took a couple weeks. So a verdict today would have been really fast. It didn't happen, but we did hear from the jury, sort of. They sent a note. Unfortunately, the note was never read out loud in open court, so we don't know exactly what was on the note. So we've got to listen to the discussion about the note in the courtroom with the judge and the lawyers to try to piece together what this jury wanted to get. Take a listen.
Everybody saw the question?
Yes, Your Honor.
My suggestion is that there are 265 exhibits, and I ordinarily have sent in an exhibit list that the parties have reviewed, and I would think that would be an appropriate way to assist them in their evaluation of the evidence, but it needs to be cleaned up. In particular, on a quick review of it, photo 52 should say something other than butcher paper.
Yes. And 189?
Also the same term?
No.
What were you calling it? What kind of paper? Bench?
Bench paper.
That term is used throughout. So what is it that is, that term is used in other numbers? So is it something about that particular photo that is problematic with that description?
Oh, I
mean,
I just don't like it, but...
I know you don't like it, but I'm trying to distinguish between, I think there was one witness who used that term butcher paper as opposed to bench paper, and I don't think it was the witness that was associated with that. This is just the old-fashioned terminology that people often use to describe that paper. I think I used it at the side of the bench one time, not in front of the jury, but just with you. But I think that is there's a more neutral characterization that would be appropriate and more in line with what the witnesses actually testified to. But as to the other language in 189, it seems to me that that's what the witness testified to, right?
That's right. Yes, Your Honor.
Anybody, let's all take a moment to look through the list right now and see if there's anything. I'm going to do that right now. The answer to their question is 97, by the way.
Yes.
Let me just take the time to look through these, and you do the same. All right, so I'm going to write back to the jurors, and I will give them the name of, or the number of the photo, which is, I'll answer it as exhibit number 97, and here's an exhibit list to assist you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Okay. So they were talking about the butcher paper, and that's just the judge wanting to clean up the way it's described in this list that she's going to send to the jury. So they have a list of the exhibits, so if they want to see something, they can say, hey, how about exhibit 27 or exhibit 42? They don't know which one it is because they didn't have the list. Well, now the judge is going to send in the list. They're also concerned about exhibit 189, which I guess was referred to as blood clots. In cleaning up how they describe that, but it is what it is. It's a jar filled with blood clots, and that's the way it was described by the witness, so I think the judge is probably going to leave that on there. But the most important part of what just happened was exhibit 97. This is the one that they wanted to see. That's Anna lying on a rug. Why is that important? Well, there's a rug that is found in a dumpster that is allegedly similar to that rug. Perhaps the same rug. Perhaps the rug thrown out by the defendant. So this is what they wanted to see. This is the one they had the question about, but the judge is going to send in a list of all 265 exhibits. What does this all mean? No verdict on Friday? Let's bring back in our think tank, Josh Colesroot, Claudia King, and Holland Reed. It would have been quick if they did it in 3 hours. If they let them deliberate till around now, I would expect a verdict, but it didn't happen tonight. Claudia King, what do you think of the exhibit, Anna lying on a rug? That's what they wanted to see. What does it tell you, if anything, about what's going on? What questions does it raise for you?
It's definitely not the picture I thought that they might have been asking about, that's for sure. But I guess what it says to me is they are really evaluating the evidence, and they want to really examine the photo of that rug to see if they believe it is the same rug that was found in the dumpster. I am surprised. I guess 3 or 4 hours would have been a quick verdict, but to me, we don't know Brian's story because he didn't tell us his story. And I know he's not required to, but there's just so many questions with the searches that he made and with what happened that I don't think we'll be waiting too long on Monday for a guilty verdict.
Holland Reed, you know what this tells me? This tells me, and we look at this case, we're like, oh, it's so obvious. I mean, come on. And we watch trials week in and week out, day after day. This one's obvious. But for these jurors, they're coming down, they're doing their civil duty, they want to do the right thing, they know how serious it is. 12 people have to agree to something. Some nights it's hard to get all 3 of you to agree on something, right? So 12 people. They're doing their job. It's amazing. Trust the jury, right, Holland?
I mean, trust the jury, but trust your common sense. How many trials, cases, you can go to any sleuth website, courttv.com, your viewers, all the shows, Dateline, whatever, and look at the common sense factor. I understand that they are doing their due diligence, but who cares about butcher paper versus whatever paper? I don't care what kind of paper it is. This man has literally did all the things wrong if he was trying to cover up a murder. And if they don't come to a guilty verdict, then I am confused beyond a reasonable doubt.
Josh, what's going on here? You've tried so many cases.
I think that, just piggybacking off of what you said, I look at our viewers kind of like grand jurors. They've seen everything. Nothing surprises them anymore, and they can piece this together pretty well. But you know what? I do like that the jury is taking this seriously. There's mountains of evidence, and they're going through it. And, they took an oath to do this. Now, one thing that when I was thinking about what happened is that you try to put yourself in the defendant's position to understand where he's coming from. Now, if you love somebody, you deeply love somebody, can you ever imagine cutting them into pieces? I mean, just the idea of doing that is so absurd. I just don't think that the defendant or the defense is going to be able to get past this. And I would expect that we're going to get a pretty quick verdict come Monday morning.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, I'll share a quick story. And I've shared it many times through the years, but it's very relevant here because in that same courthouse, right around the time of the turn of the century, one of the first trials I covered on Court TV, a jury got a case that seemed obvious to me as well, right? It was DNA, blood, all linked, husband, wife, killer. He's hooked on porn. You had everything that you needed. But the jury got the case on Monday. They deliberated Monday afternoon, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and they didn't say anything. No questions, no comments. It's just deliberate. Then they showed up on Friday. Now, the only thing that was different on Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they were all wearing T-shirts and shorts because it was about 100 degrees in the courtroom. On Friday, they were all dressed up, and they all stood on the steps of the courthouse and took a picture together in the morning. So I was like, I think the verdict's going to be today, and it was. But here's the point of the story, which has become a lot longer than I expected it to be, is that I spoke to the jurors afterwards, and I said, what took, 5 days? They said, before we even took a vote, we went through all the evidence together and talked about all the evidence in the case together. And it was like a 5-week trial, so it took a long time to go through all the exhibits and all the evidence and talk about it. And I was like, wow. And these are people from the same exact jurisdiction and jury pool as this jury. So, Claudia, I just think you have a case in this courthouse, these jurors are going to think about it, and they're going to do the right thing by both parties involved in the case.
I mean, we know this courthouse is infamous, I guess. So, yes, there must be something in the water there that is keeping all the jurors going through every little thing. And when they do that and they go through every Google search, they're not going to find, why did my wife die unexpectedly? How do I know if someone unresponsive is really dead? They're not going to find any of that because he didn't search any of that. So ultimately, I think once they get through all the evidence, it will be a guilty verdict.
Yeah, Holland, were you surprised that he didn't even decide to tell his story?
I'm not surprised because what story is he going to tell, Vinny? He can't tell a story. All the evidence is against him. He should just keep his mouth shut and hope that he gets the least amount of time in jail that he can get. There is no story to tell. The story told itself, essentially. And just like Claudia just said, there are no searches in his favor. There's nothing in his favor to help him in this case. Everything is against him. So we'll see what happens.
I don't know. Well, he used to sell fake Warhols, so I thought maybe he would think about selling something to the jury. I don't know. Anyhow, all right. Stay where you are, folks. We've got a lot more to get to. Coming up next, Sheriff Mickey Stines. This is the sheriff from Kentucky who on video shot and killed a judge, Judge Kevin Mullins. Well, we've got a lot more information now about why he did it and what his defense will be.
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
I'll be honest, Mickey, you don't seem like you normally do when I speak to you.
I'm in handcuffs, man.
Well, no, not just that. Not just that. You
just want y'all to be fair to me.
Yeah, you see, you know I'm going to be fair to you. But you do seem off compared to how you normally interact with me. Like something's going on. Like, has anything else been going on the last few weeks? Do you take, like, medicine for anything? Or you any type of illness or anything?
That moment caught on body cam video of Sheriff Mickey Stines just moments after he had shot and killed Judge Kevin Mullins, to me, crucial in understanding this case. I mean, there's someone who knows Mickey Stines and knows that there's something wrong. This isn't the guy I normally speak with. There's something different. Ask him if he's on medication, for goodness sake. Giving us, some insight into what was going on with Mickey Stines at the time that he shot and killed Judge Mullins on video. Now, He's facing the criminal charges for murder, but he's also being sued civilly. And we learned something in the answer to the civil suit that is really interesting, and I think gives us some insight into two questions. Why did he do it, and what is his defense going to be? And I think it applies in the civil case the same way it's going to apply in the criminal case. Take a look. Defendant admits to shooting Judge Kevin Mullins in his chambers. Defendant denies he did so intentionally, as he lacked the capacity to intend the actions alleged in plaintiff's complaint. To the extent further response is required, defendant denies at this time. You see that? Lacked the capacity to intend the actions. That's insanity, folks. Defendant admits that upon information and belief, he was exhibiting paranoid and psychotic conduct. Defendant is without sufficient information to know what others observed and perceived. Therefore, to the extent further response is required, defendant is without sufficient information and therefore denies at this time. The key is lacks the capacity, paranoid, and psychotic. Who else noticed what was going on with the sheriff that day? Well, he was at lunch down the street at the grill where everyone goes. And there were some folks there that work in the courthouse, including one woman, and all these people were interviewed by police right in the aftermath of the shooting. Take a listen to this observation of Mickey Stines.
We all went to lunch together today. Mickey and Kevin, Christy, Tim, Michael Clark. We had a street fight, and Mickey acted really strange today. I've been around him a lot. He's always a real fun, cut-up, easy-going guy, and he acted strange at lunch. And I don't know if this matters, but I'm going to tell you anyway, because it's odd to me. He leaned back in his chair at lunch, and they were talking about re-election. He said, I'll never make it to the next election. Thought that was odd when he said it. Didn't really know what he meant by that.
Mickey did?
Mm-hmm. And he just, leaned back. His gun was right in front. And Michael Clark looked over and he said, it's an awful big gun you got there. He said, yeah. He said, is it hot? And he said, oh, I don't know. He said, it looks like you followed the numbers off of it, which was odd then, but now I'm kind of wondering if it was in fact a gun that had the numbers followed off.
Right? I'm not going to make it to the next election, because he's paranoid, because someone's trying to take him out. And then there's more behavior in the body cam as he's being escorted, and he's, afraid to get into the vehicle because he's wondering, is there someone in there that's going to get him? I mean, this is very obvious. Take a look at this, because he was evaluated by a social worker, examined him at the Leslie County Jail after the shooting, and these evaluations included observations of active psychosis. Again, this is right in the aftermath of the shooting. This is not someone, a year later saying, oh, yeah, at the time he was. These are people at the time of the shooting, evaluating him that day within hours. Upon evaluation of Mr. Stines, it appears that he is still in an active state of psychosis. Why did he do it? Paranoia, psychosis. What's his defense going to be? Paranoia, psychosis. Let's bring in our think tank. Josh Colesroot, Claudia King, Holland Reed. Holland, this is a troubled individual, obviously troubled at the time, but what he did was extremely troubling, shooting in cold-blooded judge, his friend or a former friend. What are your thoughts about what do we do with someone if all this is true? That it's a complete mental breakdown, yet he still took there it is. He did it right on video. What do we do?
Vinnie, it's so painful and hard to watch. And hate that it's always sometimes the closest person to you that does the most harm. And then in addition to that, it's the people that you think are okay, a sheriff, that you don't look at that would need mental evaluations. We're looking at, oh, it's some crazy guy on the street. It's the person that is literally running your town, your community, that you trust with a gun, you trust with authority, you trust to protect you. And the person that you're trusting to protect is the person that is gunning down your friend on camera. It's so, there's so many layers to this.
Yeah.
When it deals with the mental health gaps, right? That we just, I'm sorry.
Let's do this. I'm short on time. I've got 30 seconds left here.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Josh, give me 15. Claudia, give me 15.
Remember, this guy is a sheriff, law enforcement officer. He knows what he needs to say to set the stage for an insanity defense, okay? I have my prosecutor's goggles on here. I'm not buying it. I do need to find a motive because even though the law doesn't require it, jurors surely do. So I'm looking for a motive, and I still think I have a pretty strong case at this point.
Claudia?
I would love to see some other people who witnessed this odd behavior, because we do have him walking around with a gun, like Holland said. And if people saw him acting odd, they should have spoken out about it, and we might have been able to avoid this tragedy entirely.
All right, we ran out of time, but thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Josh Colesroot, Claudia King, Holland Reed, always great to have you. Up next, something else you need to know tonight, plus coming up next hour.
Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, she was days from giving birth when Rebecca Park disappeared without a trace. Weeks later, her body was found in a remote Michigan forest, and allegations now suggest her own biological mother and stepfather may be responsible. In a case of brutality and betrayal, how far did this horror reach, and will justice ever be enough? Tonight, we investigate.
This is the Court TV Podcast.
Time to reveal something else you need to know. Living on the edge, an 86-year-old man stuck on the roof. Let's look at the rescue.
I got you, sir.
Okay, I'm glad somebody's got me.
Hanging on?
Put your foot against that and that'll brace you.
All right, what's the other side, Caleb? Here. Grab, reach up with that hand. Wait, let me get your wrist. Wait, let me get your wrist. Come here.
Okay.
Give me your wrist.
You got it? I didn't mean to cause all this.
No. It's not your fault at all. That's what we're here for, okay?
You got here very quickly.
Great job by Tampa PD. What a save, especially this time of year. All right, take a look at your screens, folks. We have a child who is missing who needs your help. 13 years old. This is Kyria Spurlock, missing from Hammond, Louisiana. If you see Kyria, please pick up the phone, make a call, make a difference. 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the Tangipahoa Parish Sheriff's Office down in Louisiana. Numbers on your screen. Let's see if we can get Kyria to a safe place tonight. Don't go anywhere with another hour of live true crime. Vinnie Politan Investigates is next. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.
There you have it. If you want to see more in-depth reporting on the latest true crime stories, you can see me every weeknight, 8 p.m. Eastern on Closing Arguments. Thank you so much for downloading. And as always, please don't forget to hug the kids.
This podcast is a production of Court TV. Go to CourtTV.com for more content, trials on demand, and to find out how to watch Court TV in your area.